What's up, guys? This is Jay Griff, and welcome back to the Dark Souls 3 Blog of Pain. Been a little while, haven't been able to play that much, so today's episode, I'm going to cover two areas. I'm going to talk about the Catacombs of Carthus, I'm going to talk about Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, and I'm going to give an update on some of the NPCs, most of whom's quest lines I think I've already failed. So first on the NPCs. I don't have all that much to say about Andre, or Irina of Karim, or Greyrat, other than Greyrat seems to have gone on his final heist because I sent him to plunder Irithyll, and he hasn't come back. So we'll see if I find his corpse one day. Irina's bodyguard, Aegon, he showed up briefly at Firelink Shrine to basically say that it was a great place to stuff her away. I keep hoping that he would be a summonable NPC, but so far that hasn't happened. I haven't seen him anywhere. Cirrus showed up again to commend me for being summoned to help other players so much, and offered to help me anytime I needed it, which is a reversal of the first time I met her, where she more or less told me to piss off. So I've been keeping a lookout for her as well, but I haven't seen her sign anywhere. Yoel of Londor, however, he's up to a lot these days though, and by that I mean he's dead. I have no idea why, or by who, but I will hazard a theory. He wanted to bring out my full power, and somehow level my character up without using any souls. Since I didn't let him do that, I suspect that whatever power he wanted to transfer to me has killed him. Fortunately, I didn't need his sorceries anyway. So, back to the progress. Past the Abyss Watchers, I entered the Catacombs of Carthus. This place is much like the Catacombs of Dark Souls 1. There are a lot of skeletons, a lot of traps, a lot of falls. I haven't really been able to gather too much lore-wise from the items here, but I can tell that the people of Carthus were a slippery sort. There are enemies that vanish and reappear when they roll. There's a ring that lets you do the same thing, and they seem to have loved trapped corridors and trapped items, and just bad jokes. Carthus itself was a kingdom of sand, so a desert kingdom, which was probably actually really far away from where the catacombs are, seeing as they connect directly to a swamp on one end and to Irithyll on the other end. So I think that these catacombs were built very, very far from Carthus itself. Also down in these catacombs, I found Henri of Astora. The last time I saw her, she was assisting me to defeat the Deacons of the Deep. But here I find her lost and very distraught. She's been separated from her bodyguard, Horus, and seems to be letting the difficulties of her journey weigh her down. Unfortunately, I never did find Horus, though I did find Henri a second time. Still in a very terrible state. This is likely the last time I will ever see her alive.
Have you seen Horus anywhere? Oh yes, I see. I've searched high and low with no luck. Perhaps he's left the catacombs. Oh, Horus, where have you run off to?
Unfortunately, I didn't find her until I had already fought the boss. And usually, fighting the boss before you do something with an NPC breaks their quest line, so I think that's it for her. The boss of the area is High Lord Wolnir. He was once the greatest of the lords of Carthus, and became the greatest by killing all of his rivals. And as one who kills to gain position might be himself murdered one day, he became very afraid of dying, and specifically of the Abyss, which may have been drawn to him by both his power and cruelty. His soul tells us that Lord Wolnir of Carthus sentenced countless souls to gruesome deaths, keen to outlive them all. And from his soul, we can make the Wolnir Holy Sword, which tells us a holy sword eroded by the Abyss. When Wolnir fell to the Abyss, he was gripped by a fear of true darkness, and pleaded to the gods for the first time. This holy sword, together with 3 armlets stripped from the corpses of clerics, gave him some semblance of comfort. The phrasing "fell to the abyss" is very significant, because dying does not send one to the abyss. The dead soul and the dark soul are two different domains of power. So one might gather that Wolnir became so powerful because he learned of the nature of the soul and used them to amass personal strength, hence his massive size compared to his normal human-sized servants. He also stole items that are keeping him safe from the bodies of dead clerics, so this was a man with very few scruples. Defeating him is rather easy, though he does have a trick or two up his sleeve. All you have to do is destroy his armlets, and he will die. But if the abyss that surrounds him touches you, you die instantly. So you defeat Wolnir, giving him over to the abyss, but taking his soul for yourself, and you move on to Irithyll. Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. What a place. Its beauty is offset only by the strength of its guardians. Entering Irithyll requires you to hold in your possession a small doll, which is given out by the Pontiff Sullivan as a key of sorts. And ours we get by killing the Deacons of the Deep. So by association, we can assume that the Pontiff is connected to the worship of the Deep somehow. Just looking at Irithyll, I can assume a few connections may exist between it and locations from Dark Souls 1 and 2. It has several parallels to the DLC zone of Dark Souls 2, Crown of the Ivory King, Aleum Lois. Similar architecture, beautiful frozen landscape, both guarded by a massive beast on a bridge, and the knights of both places look pretty similar. The doll, however, is a connection to the painted world of Ariamis from Dark Souls 1, which was a false reality existing inside a painting that was hanging in the Cathedral of Guinevere in Anor Londo. The painted world was also frozen, but it was a ruin and existed only to act as a prison for the crossbreed Priscilla. Priscilla may have been a creation of Seath the Scaleless, or even may have been the bastard child of Seath and Guinevere. There are no answers there. That's all raw speculation. But regardless, Irithyll is beautiful and deadly. The knights here are incredibly powerful. They use pyromancies, they use sorceries, they use heavy weapons, they use light weapons, and are super fast. Like, they've got the full Monty here. And they seem to be keeping guard over the angry ghosts of the city. How or why these people died remains a mystery to me. But fighting through the streets, alleys, and warehouses, you eventually arrive at the cathedral with a frighteningly powerful foe, Pontiff Sullivan. This guy's a monster. He takes the acrobatics and the crushing blows of the Abyss Watchers and cranks them up to 11 by throwing in what looks like Dark Moon miracles into the mix, and also being too strong to stagger with any attack. You could at least stagger the Abyss Watchers. You can't do that to this guy. The boss fight was a welcome showpiece after the rather easy speed bump that was High Lord Wolnir, and he comes loaded with possibilities for who and what he is and who he serves. So at first I assumed he was all for the Abyss because of his connections to the Cathedral of the Deep. But looking at his doll, his soul, his weapons, and his home, I think a little differently now. This Boreal Valley, whether it be built upon the remains of Aleum Lois or not, is a realm at night. Perhaps this is even the sunless realm referenced by Cirrus. I haven't found her here, though, much to my disappointment. Even still, the doll references that the sun always sets in Irithyll. The knights and Cirrus all wear a silver white, which is traditionally the color of the moon as it was worn by Gwyndolin, whereas gold is the color of the sun. One of the weapons you can make from his soul, the Great Sword of Judgment, references the judgment of the moon, but that it is darker than it should be, revealing Sullivan's true nature. So, is he connected to the Abyss? Maybe. Is he connected to the Blades of the Dark Moon? Absolutely. Interesting. Very interesting. So we've got a connection to Gwyndolin, or at least Gwyndolин's followers, his power, or his philosophy. And just outside the boss room, there's a body. And on that body is the ring of the Firstborn. The Firstborn of the Sun. The Firstborn of Gwyn. This ring is from Dark Souls 1. It was found just outside Gwyn's tomb, which consequently is where Gwyndolin was. So, a lot of references all of a sudden to Gwyn and the children of Gwyn. And what's more interesting is what I found down a hidden passage into a hidden dwelling. In my last episode, I mentioned that I suspected Guinevere, the daughter of Gwyn, had come to the lands of Lothric and was one of its founders, the mythical Queen of Lothric. Well, I was very happy to turn a corner in this dwelling and find 2 of the Black Knights that I theorized had been brought here by Guinevere. And on the wall, where one of them was staring, a portrait of Guinevere. Straight off the walls of Anor Londo. The same portrait. This is her kingdom. I was right. She did come here. But she's not safe. Pontiff Sullivan's soul reads, Pontiff Sullivan of Irithyll imprisoned a god of the old royalty in the abandoned cathedral to be fed to the devourer. God of the old royalty. Guinevere? To be fed to the devourer. Saint Aldrich was not in his coffin, and a key to Irithyll was with his deacons. I can only hope that Guinevere is still alive, and that this didn't happen long ago. But I can only go forward and find out. Well guys, this has been Jay Griff, and thanks for listening.